In our social work research class today, we will be talking about quantitative method versus qualitative method. Let's get into the introduction. Which method of research between qualitative and quantitative research method should be taken depends on the nature of the problem or the issue that is to be investigated into. There may be situations in which both can be used together or have a comprehensive understanding of the phenomena being studied, or have a comprehensive understanding of the social world. However, it should always be remembered that qualitative method is used to venture into a new area about which we have very little knowledge to understand the experiences and perspectives of subject, and the knowledge thus generated helps in formulating of hypothesis tentative relationship between variables. In this lesson, a brief review of differences and similarities between quantitative and qualitative research methods is discussed. Let us look into the objectives of this class. On the completion of this lesson, you should be able to answer a few questions such as: what are the similarities between qualitative and quantitative research method? And of course, what are the differences in these methods? Decide which method would be suitable for your study. The next topic is conceptual foundation. The conceptual difference between qualitative and quantitative methods can be grouped broadly into two categories. One is variously labeled as qualitative, positivistic, hypothetico deductive, or even simple scientific research. The other as qualitative, interpretive, or ethnographic, among several other labels. Quantitative researchers try to translate concepts about various aspects of social phenomena into variables that can be precisely measured. Thereby, large are not comfortable with qualitative data. By contrast, qualitative method researchers view many aspects of social phenomena as being essentially qualitative. For them, qualitative data are meaningful, not lacking, and central issues are not how to turn them into variables that can be expressed with objective numbers. Rather, they concern such matters as the accessibility of other subcultures, relativity of actors, accounts to their social world, and between sociological descriptions and actors, is conceptions of their actions. Method. Quantitative methods of research begins with hypotheses derived from theories. It uses standardized research instruments to collect numerical data and interpret it through deductive reasoning. In contrast, qualitative method of research follows inductive reasoning. Therefore, it begins with research questions and ends with hypothesis and grounded theory. It is a naturalistic inquiry in which data are collected through interviews, observation, and case studies in natural settings, and qualitative data are interpreted and inferences are drawn through inductive reasoning. Let's get into assumptions. In quantitative research, method assumes that social facts have an objective reality. Therefore, variables in study can be identified and measured, and relationships among variables can be examined. In quantitative research method, supremacy of method plays dominant role. On contrary, qualitative research method is based on the assumption that the reality is socially constructed, variables are complex, interwoven, and difficult to measure. The subject matter plays a dominant role in quantitative research method. Now let's look into the purpose. The main purpose of qualitative method research is to explore and describe social phenomena, individuals, and events in natural setting. The purpose of quantitative research is to assess and describe social phenomena. Furthermore, many qualitative researches are aimed at discovery of causal relationships and its causal explanations, leading to prediction and generalization. The primary purpose of qualitative research method, on the other hand, is to describe individuals and events in natural setting. Further, it aims at contextualization and interpretation to understand individuals and the phenomena from the perspectives of research participants. Let's look into theory, how it is different in qualitative and quantitative. A qualitative researcher proceeds to the field for data collection without having any a priori pre-specific theory in mind. He or she apprehends that a theory in mind restricts the inquiry to those elements which may have been significant prior to developing an understanding of the situation. He or she presumes that a priori theory blocks the process of holistic inquiry. Instead, qualitative researchers develop theoretical propositions only after interacting with research participants and field. However, it is pointed out by qualitative researchers that there is no persistence on developing theories afresh in each and every inquiry. Experience based theories in relation to specific situations may act as primary guidelines for many qualitative research studies. In fact, qualitative researchers prefer developing grounded theory to general theory. As such, they begin their inquiry with a research question and a theory is developed during collection process using inductive method, which means in qualitative method, the theory is built by interlinking various concepts and constructs identified during data collection. That is the reason why the theory developed by using this method is called grounded theory. Furthermore, conceptualization and operationalization occur simultaneously with data collection and data analysis. Let's look into the concept of theory. Theory plays a significant role in quantitative research. It is a theory that usually gives direction to conduct quantitative research. It guides quantitative researcher in collection of relevant data and offers a conceptual scheme to bind them together in a more systematic manner. Research question or hypothesis. There is a difference in quantitative and qualitative methods. Qualitative method is often used to gain a general sense of phenomena and to form theories that can be tested using further quantitative research. For instance, qualitative method is often used to gain better understanding of such things as intentionality, that is, from the response of the research participants, and meaning. Why did this person or the group say something and what did it mean to them? Qualitative methods can be used to generate hypotheses that can be tested using quantitative methods. Qualitative methods produce information only on the particular case studied, and any more generalization or any more general conclusions are only hypotheses. Quantitative methods can be used to verify which of such hypotheses are true. Let's look into the process. Although each quantitative research study is unique in some ways, all quantitative research studies, regardless of phenomena being studied, follow some common steps. Each of these steps is interdependent. The quantitative research process is thus the system of these interrelated activities. The steps of quantitative method research are interdependent. Qualitative researchers emphasize conducting detailed study of cases that occur in natural flow of social life. Therefore, they believe in practice wisdom that is developed from experiences of researchers. That is the reason most of the qualitative researchers do not prescribe the steps of conducting qualitative research studies. Instead, they report personal account of how the research is carried out. Let's see the process of research design. In quantitative method, designs are structured and predetermined. Structured and predetermined research design is a distinguished feature of quantitative research method. Quantitative researchers believe that collection of evidences objectively is possible only by adapting structured and predetermined research design. Probably, this is the reason designing research studies occupies a central part in quantitative research method. The research design in qualitative research depends upon the purpose, theoretical framework, research question, selection of empirical material, methodological procedures, degree of standardization and control, intention to generalize, and available resources. Sampling quality. Sampling is different in qualitative researches. Usually, they pick up a sample and research setting site that can provide the information using non-probability sampling methods like purposive, judgmental, deviant cases, extreme case sampling techniques. That means the researchers intentionally choose participants who have knowledge and experience with the subject or the key concept construct being explored. In quantitative research, the intent of sampling is to select respondents that are representative of a population so that the results can be generalized to a population. In this way, the researcher first selects their population and define it carefully. They then select sample from this population. Although not always workable, random choice of respondents for the sample is attempted so that each person in the population has an equal chance of being selected. The researcher may want certain characteristics represented in the sample that may be out of proportion in a larger population. Tools for data collection. Quantitative data includes information collected through closed-ended questions such as found on standardized scales to measure attitude, behavior, perception, opinion, etc. The collection of this kind of data might also involve using closed-ended checklist on which the researcher checks behavior seen. Sometimes quantitative information is found in documents such as census records or attendance records. The analysis consists of statistically analyzing score collected on instruments, checklists, or public documents to answer research questions or to test hypotheses. In contrary, qualitative data consists of information collected through open-ended questions that the researcher gathers through interviews with respondents. In general, open-ended questions asked during these interviews allows the respondents to give answers in their own words. Also, qualitative data may be collected by observing respondents or sites of research gathering documents from a private example diary or public minutes of meeting, source of collecting audio-visual materials such as videotapes or artifacts. The analysis of qualitative data, that is words or text or image, typically follows the path of aggregating the words or images into categories of information and presenting the diversity of ideas gathered during data collection. Let's see the concept of data collection. Data collection. For qualitative data collection, forms for recording the information need to be developed. If interview data are collected, then an interview procedure is needed that not only lists the questions and provides space which to record answers, but also has space for essential data about the time, day, and the place of the interview. In many cases, the researcher audio tapes the qualitative interviews and later transcribes the qualitative interviews. Having an interview procedure helps keep the researcher organized and it provides a record of information in the event that the recording devices do not work. An observational procedure also provides a very useful way of organizing an observation. On this form, the researcher records a description of events and processes observed as well as reflective notes about emerging codes, themes, and concerns that arise during the observation. Recording forms can also be developed for reviewing document and for recording image data such as photographs. In quantitative research, the researcher selects an existing research instrument to use or develop an instrument. This instrument may be an attitudinal scale or checklist with high reliability and validity. For documents with numeric data, the researcher often composes a form that summarizes the data. In choosing an instrument or a checklist, the researcher is concerned about its reliability and validity, whether the questions fit the research question and hypothesis in the study, and whether the adequate scales are used to report the data. Analyzing the data. Now let's see how it is different in both these research methods. For quantitative data analysis, researchers go through the following steps: preparing the data for analysis, exploring the data representing the analysis, and validating the data. Analysis of data involves examining the database to address the research questions or hypotheses. In quantitative research, the investigator analyzes the data based on the type of questions or hypothesis and uses the appropriate statistical test to address the research questions or hypothesis. The choice of statistical test is based on the type of questions being asked, the number of independent and dependent variables, the type of scales used to measure those variables, and whether the population is normally or non-normally distributed. Information in research methods. Text discusses each of these factors. Qualitative data analysis begins with coding the data, dividing the text into small units, phrases or sentences or paragraphs, and assigning a label to each of these units. This label can come from exact words of the participants, a term composed by the investigators, or a concept in social sciences. If the researcher scores directly on the printed transcript, the transcript pages need to be typed with extra large margins so that codes can be placed in the margins. In this hand coding process, researchers assign code words to test segments in left margin and record broader themes in the right margin. The core features of qualitative data analysis is the coding process. Coding is the process of grouping evidence and labeling ideas so that they reflect increasingly broader perspectives. Evidence from a database is grounded into codes and the codes are grouped into broader themes. Themes then can be grouped into even larger dimensions or perspectives, related or compared. Reporting. Qualitative traditionalists are also characterized by a dislike of detached and passive style of writing, preferring instead detailed, rich, and thick, empathic description written directly and somewhat informally. Qualitative research results are expressed by visual presentation of data, maybe maps, photographs, or diagrams showing how the ideas are related. A researcher weaves the data into discussion of their significance. Quantitative research results are expressed in numbers, example, percentages or statistical coefficients, and a researcher gives the meaning to the number and tell how they relate to the hypothesis. Research reports include tables and charts with numbers. Reports include description of particular events, the form of words, quotes, etc. Researcher's role. Although both methods share basic presumption of social research, the two methods differ significantly. If you can see in the table, there is a comparison of quantitative and qualitative methods. In quantitative method, the researcher's role is up to measuring objective facts, whereas in qualitative, the researcher would construct social reality, cultural meaning. In quantitative method, the researcher focuses on variables, whereas in qualitative, the researcher's focus is on interactive processes and events. In quantitative method, reliability is the key, whereas authenticity is the key for qualitative method. Quantitative method, there's a value free. In qualitative method, values are present and explicit. In quantitative method, it is independent of context, whereas in qualitative, they are situationally constrained. In quantitative method, there are many cases and many subjects, whereas in qualitative, there are few cases and few subjects. In quantitative method, there is statistical analysis, and thematic analysis is present in qualitative method. Lastly, in quantitative method, researcher is detached, whereas in qualitative method, researcher is involved. Let us summarize the whole session. Quantitative method is based on positivistic philosophy, whereas qualitative method follows interpretivism. Quantitative research, which is based on hypothetico deductive logic, begins with hypotheses derived from theories, whereas qualitative method, on the other hand, follows inductive reasoning. The main purpose of qualitative method research is to describe a social phenomena, individual and events in a natural setting. The primary purpose of quantitative research, on the other hand, is to describe individuals and events in a natural setting. A qualitative researcher proceeds to the field for data collection without having any a priori, which means pre-specific theory in mind. Theory plays a significant role in quantitative method research. Structured and predetermined research design is a distinguished feature of quantitative research method. The basic design generally used in qualitative research area are case studies, comparative studies, and longitudinal studies. Qualitative researchers usually pick up sample and research setting site that can provide necessary information. In quantitative research, the intent of sampling is to select respondents that are representative of a population so that the results can be generalized to the population. Quantitative researchers use questionnaires or standardized scales to measure attitude, behavior, perception, opinion, etc. In contrast, qualitative researchers collect data through open-ended questions that the researcher gathers through interviews with respondents. Qualitative data are prepared for analysis by organizing the document or transcribing text from interviews and observations into a word processing file for analysis. In quantitative method research, the responses are assigned numeric values and computing are completed with statistical software. Although there are many important differences between qualitative and quantitative research method, there are some similarities between the methods that are sometimes overlooked. For example, both quantitative and qualitative researchers use empirical observations to address research problems.